Welcome to Storyflix. We will explain the first part of Squid Game. Squid Game is a Netflix original series about people who have all struggled financially in life. They were then invited to play a mysterious survival competition with deadly twists. How terrible is this bloody game? Let's find out in Squid Game, Part 1. Squid Game begins with a man named Ji-hoon, whose life is quite sad. After being fired from his job, he now only works odd jobs. Ji-hoon lives with his mother after officially divorcing his wife, who has remarried another man and brought their daughter with them. However, he still tries to be a good father to his daughter and always makes her happy. Ji-hoon intends to buy an expensive birthday present for his daughter. He even dared to steal his mother's money and use it to gamble on the racetrack. Luck seems to be on his side. He managed to win the bet and double his money. Ji-hoon then calls his daughter with a happy face, telling her that he will come with an expensive birthday present tonight. But his excitement doesn't last long. He instead meets the henchmen of the loan sharks who want to collect his debt from him. Ji-hoon rushes to escape as fast as he can and accidentally bumps into a woman. After a long escape, the debt collectors manage to catch and corner him. He promises to pay off his debt soon and intends to pay half his debt using his money. He then reached into his jacket pocket intending to take the money, but how surprised he was because the money was not there. Turns out the woman who had him had stolen all of his money. Ji-hoon was then beaten. The debt collector gives him another chance to pay off his debt, but he must sign a letter of agreement which states that he must be willing to give up his kidney if he fails to pay off the debt within the specific time limit. Ji-hoon had no other choice. He then agreed to the agreement by fingerprinting using blood flowing from his nose. After all the bad luck that happened to him, Ji-hoon feels even more guilty for failing to make his daughter happy on her birthday. He couldn't buy a nice birthday present and treat her to a good meal. Ji-hoon feels he has failed to be a good father. Now he can only lament his fate with the possibility of being hated by his daughter forever and entangled in debt that he will not be able to pay for the rest of his life. However, Ji-hoon gets a glimmer of hope when a handsomely dressed man approaches him while waiting for a train at the station. The man said he could get a fantastic amount of money and pay off his debts if he was willing to join a game. The mysterious man then gave a phone number and asked Ji-hoon to call the number listed there. That same night, Ji-hoon tries to call the phone number given by the mysterious man at the station and decides to join the game. He was waiting for a pickup truck on the side of the road. Not long after, the car arrived. Ji-hoon gets into the car and sees everyone in the passenger seat sleeping. It turned out that they were being sedated to keep the location of the game secret. Not long after, Ji-hoon was then drugged and all his belongings were also confiscated. Ji-hoon wakes up on a bed in a large room. The other participants then woke up after hearing the loud sound of classical music. He notices that all the participants are wearing the same clothes with different numbers. There are 456 participants. He was the last participant to join. Elsewhere, the organizers of the game were seen wearing red costumes and masks. They observed the participants from a computer screen led by a masked person wearing a brown outfit named Frontman. Ji-hoon was joined by other participants, including Sang-woo, his childhood friend who stumbles upon a money laundering case, a grandfather named Il-nam, who is sickly. There's also a foreigner from Pakistan named Ali, and a gang member named Dak-soo. In addition, Ji-hoon meets a woman who claims to be a single mother named Min-young, and a woman from North Korea, Saibyo, who stole his money while running away from debt collectors. However, when Ji-hoon was venting his anger at Saibyo, suddenly the door opened and masked staff wearing red costumes entered the room. One of the staff then announced that the players would be participating in 6 games over the next 6 days, and the winners of these games would get a fantastic amount of cash prizes. The staff then asked all participants who would participate in the game to sign a letter of agreement containing 3 articles. First, players must not stop playing. Second, players who refuse to play will be eliminated. Third, the game can be stopped if the majority agrees. Ji-hoon looked confused before affixing his signature on the paper. But then he saw the grandfather who seemed to have made up his mind to follow the game, and he signed the agreement. After confirming their agreement to participate in the game, the participants were directed to a pink room with unique decorations. They were then asked to stand facing the wall one by one to be photographed. Later, these photos will be displayed on the screen as the game progresses. After finishing, the participants would then ask to climb the stairs to the first game's location. After arriving at the location of the game, the participants were still wondering where they were. Then came an announcement explaining the rules of the first game. The first game is a green light, red light game. The rule is that if the big robot at the end of the field faces a tree and says, "the green light," then the players must run until they reach the finish line at the end of the field. On the other hand, if the robot turns towards them and says, "red light," all participants must stop and not move an inch or be eliminated immediately. It looks simple enough, but the reality is far more terrifying. Because what is meant by elimination in this game is that participants who move not according to the rules will be immediately shot dead. All participants panicked and ran towards the gate, but they were immediately fired upon from various directions, and the number of players was reduced very rapidly. The game was finally continued with the remaining players who were still alive. Ji-hoon and the others struggled to keep up with the game, although all around them, the corpses of the other eliminated participants were littered. The participants who managed to reach the finish line before the time ran out were declared to have passed and were entitled to participate in the next game. Il-nam looks happy that he made it to the finish line. Dak-soo and Saibyo also managed to cross the finish line, followed by Sang-woo. Ji-hoon is still left behind on the playing field. And when there were only 20 seconds left, Ji-hoon almost fell when suddenly the robot said a red light and started to turn around. Luckily, Ali saved him, and they both made it to the finish line on time. The participants who were still in the arena when the time was up were immediately eliminated and shot to death. After the first game round was over, the participants were directed back to the big room. Of the 456 participants, now only 201 were left. Seeing the terrible incident that happened to the other participants, all the players who were still surviving became panicked and frightened. They then agreed to vote to stop the game. Prior to voting, the committee informed that the prize for the winner who made it to the last round had already reached more than 25 billion won, and if they decided to quit the game, the participants would not get a penny. The participants looked worried. On the other hand, they were very tempted by the cash prizes in sight, but on the other hand, their own lives are at stake. Voting is still going on. The participants who still want to play and who insist on ending the game are the same number, until finally, it was Il-nam's turn to be the last to vote. The grandfather turned out to support those who wanted to stop the game, and according to the rules, the game could be stopped if the majority agreed. After the voting was over, all participants were finally sent back to their respective regions. The next day, Ji-hoon reports the cruel game syndicate that has killed many people to the police station. He describes the incidents he experienced, from the drug syndicate administered to how the participants were eliminated by being shot to death. But the police think that Ji-hoon is just making up stories. Annoyed that he was considered a liar, he handed them the card the man gave him the other day. He asks the police to call the number listed there. After the police called the number, it turned out that the number belonged to an ordinary woman. Ji-hoon was finally expelled from the police station because all his words could not be proven. After Ji-hoon left, a policeman named Junho just arrived at the police station. The policeman seemed interested in the name card that Ji-hoon brought and asked the man's identity to the police. Junho seems to know something about the ruthless game syndicate because his long-lost brother also has the same ticket as Ji-hoon. Junho assumes that his brother is in the same location. Elsewhere, Ji-hoon is very worried when he doesn't find his mother at home. He finally gets the news that his mother is being treated at the hospital. The doctor who treated his mother told him that his mother had been suffering from acute diabetes for a long time and needed surgery immediately. But her mother decided to go home because she couldn't afford to pay for the treatment at the hospital. His mother's words suddenly make him sad and disappointed in himself. Ji-hoon then tries to borrow money from his ex-wife to pay for his mother's medical expenses. But when he got there, he got insulted and cursed by his ex-wife's husband. The man kicked him out of his house, even forbidding him to meet his daughter. Ji-hoon is instantly furious and beats the man, but his daughter saw the incident, and Ji-hoon immediately left. Finally, Ji-hoon realizes that he is on the brink. As the organizers say in the game, he has to face the harsh reality. He is threatened with losing his daughter and his mother, who is now suffering from a serious illness. On top of that, he still has to deal with his debts. Ji-hoon and the other participants also faced the same harsh reality, mirrored in accumulated debt and trapped in a situation on the brink. After thinking it over carefully, they finally decided to return to the game. That night, they waited at the designated place and were picked up by car like when they first joined the game. But this time, the participants were more prepared because they already knew a little bit about what would happen next. On the other hand, Junho secretly tails one of the cars and sneaks into it. He was desperate to enter the location of the game to find the whereabouts of his brother. Junho manages to incapacitate a committee, then disguises himself as one of the organizers in the game, wearing a mask. The committee then gathered all the participants in a room and changed their clothes. Unbeknownst to the committee, it turned out that several players had prepared themselves by smuggling sharp weapons and small items that might be used in the game. Of the previous 201 participants, only 187 people decided to enter the game again, and the total prize money earned was even more increased. At the same time, Junho, who looks confused, tries to carry out his role as a game committee. After that, Min-young, who was in the toilet, was surprised by the appearance of Saibayok, who intended to infiltrate the air vent to investigate what the committee was doing in another room. Saibayok, who peeked through the air vent, saw the organizers were making a lot of cotton candy. Saibayok is still thinking about what game uses a large amount of cotton candy. But a committee member suddenly came, and Saibayok rushed out of the ventilation hole so she wouldn't be caught peeking. The next day, the participants were directed to the game arena. Sang-woo had time to ask Saibayok about what she saw in the other room last night. He thought the game this time was also a childhood game, like the first game. Saibayok said she saw the organizers make a large amount of cotton candy. Sang-woo's estimate was right. The man then recalled his childhood game about scrapping the shapes printed on the cotton candy chips. He then takes the form of a triangle because it is the easiest shape to scrap, but he doesn't tell his other friends about it and lets them take a difficult form. Ji-hoon gets an umbrella shape and Il-nam gets a star shape. The participants have 10 minutes in the game this time. Participants who fail to scrap the pattern from the slabs of cotton candy will be immediately eliminated by being shot at by the committee on the spot. Suddenly, this makes the players panic in fear. They were also very careful to scrap the shape of the slab of sugar so that it would not be crushed and eliminated. Min-young, who managed to smuggle the match, secretly heats the tip of the needle so that the cotton candy melts quickly, so it's easier to scrap the pattern inside. The players who took on easy shapes, such as triangles and circles, managed to scrap it off and completed the game, including Sang-woo, Saibayok, and Ali. At the same time, Junho is suspicious because he looks confused about carrying out his duties. There are only 3 minutes left, as Ji-hoon and the others are still trying to scrap the shape in their slabs of cotton candy as they get tough shapes. Sweat is pouring on Ji-hoon's head because there was little time left. Drops of sweat that fell on his cotton candy got him a brilliant idea. He finally realized that the pattern was already printed on the back of the cotton candy, and they just needed to lick it off. Ji-hoon started licking his cotton candy quickly so he could finish the game on time. Il-nam and the other participants who noticed Ji-hoon's trick began to follow what he was doing. Ji-hoon and several other participants managed to finish the second round of the game and were entitled to advance to the next stage. However, one participant failed and tried to fight a committee member by sticking his needle into the committee's mask. The match even made the other committees execute players who had not finished the game so that no more participants took up the fight. The contestant who fought earlier managed to grab the committee's rifle, then pointed a gun at him. He then told him to take off his mask. The committee then took off his mask, and another committee executed the player. But then, Frontman entered the game arena and immediately shot the committee, who took off his mask. Apparently, the organizers also had to follow the same rules of the game organizers, which prohibit them from taking off their masks or revealing their identities in the game arena. The organizers are only allowed to take off their masks in their respective rooms because confidentiality is highly respected in this game. The Squid Game Part 1 ends. There's still a big question about the mastermind behind this cruel game, and what happens to Ji-hoon and the others in the next round. Of course, the most curious thing is who will win the game and manage to get billions of won in prize money.